If your message is delivered through a fragmented signal, you are attempting to transmit high-definition data through a rusted wire. The result isn't impact, it's information loss. Some leaders know how important the vocal delivery and presentation is. They train for years to acquire professional vocal resonance and presentation skills, but they miss out on 65% of signal alignment and thus impact potential. If the voice sounds deep, resonant, and authoritative, but the visual signal is noisy or fragmented, the audience experiences cognitive dissonance. The human brain processes visual data in the occipital lobe faster than auditory data in the temporal lobe. When the eyes see visual static and the ears hear authority, the amygdala flags this person as untrustworthy or even manipulative. You look like you are performing leadership rather than inhabiting it. This is the difference between a sovereign leader and an actor. Focusing only on vocal delivery while your visual signal is fragmented requires immense cognitive load, both for you and the observer. You have to push your voice to compensate for your lack of visual presence. This leads to vocal strain and an underlying energy of desperation. You cannot sustain this in high-stakes environments such as a 4-hour board meeting or a full-day media tour. Eventually, the mask slips and the signal leakage becomes even more apparent. Your voice says, "I'm a 50 million founder," but your skin's reflection says, "I'm exhausted and misaligned." The audience believes the biological signal over the vocal signal, because visual biology always outranks vocal performance. Some understand how important their visual signal or image is, and they start managing their wardrobe, hair, makeup, and jewelry as separate, disconnected silos. They oftentimes favor structural over spectral alignment, and those that strive for spectral alignment choose generic colors that add more noise to their visual signal. They miss out on 70% of signal alignment and thus impact potential. If you wear a $10,000 bespoke suit, but the color is uncalibrated to your biometric route, the wardrobe actually competes with you. This is the failure of figure ground perception. In neuro-aesthetics, the brain should focus on the figure, meaning your face and your eyes. If the wardrobe color is dissonant, overpowering, or too low in chroma and depth relative to your root colors, the ground, meaning the wardrobe, overwhelms the figure or makes you look washed out. The audience remembers the suit or the underlying look of sickness or fatigue, but they don't remember the vision. You become a background character in your own brand. If you don't calibrate those 4 areas, it creates visual and vocal static, a hidden tax on your authority that drains your executive energy and dilutes your impact before you even speak. Let's have a closer look at the chain of impact. How impact is created. The 4 elements of your signal that I've just explained are all part of your external identity, and they should be a direct reflection of your internal identity to maintain authenticity, the main driver of impact. Now, there are very specific results for each element that you can expect if that signal is calibrated properly. For the spectral signal, the result is vitality. For the structural signal, the result is presence. For the vocal and behavioral signal, the result is authority. And for the lexical signal, the result is understanding. The highest amount of impact is only possible if all 4 elements and areas are calibrated as a chain, not randomly or independently. Now, humans are visual first and auditory second. This explains why your visual image and signal is more important than your acoustic signal, meaning your words and your message. Evolutionary, the auditory field is connected to the visual field, which explains its dominance. This means whenever you hear something, the brain tries to find the matching image, while the visual field is independent. You can imagine the chain of impact as a funnel. The observer first notices your spectral signal, the colors that you're wearing. If they are calibrated, you build trust on that first level, and the observer moves on to the second level, the structural signal, the shape and the silhouette of all visible elements. If this signal is calibrated properly, you build trust, and the observer moves on to the next level, to the vocal and behavioral signal, which is your vocal sound and your kinetics, how you move your body. If this signal is calibrated properly, you build trust, and the observer moves on to the last level, your lexical signal. If this signal is calibrated properly, you build trust, and the observer moves on to the understanding and implementation of your message, which creates the ultimate impact. Now, this is what it usually looks like before clients work with me. Each and every level is not only fragmented within itself, but also as a whole and with each other. It is a fragmented structure. You're only able to reach others on the periphery of some of the levels, which means you are leaving a lot of potential, impact potential on the table, which is why it takes longer for you to build trust. And usually you will tend to manage this by doing more. But more output simply means more noise. This is what it looks like after clients work with me. Not only is every single level calibrated within itself, but also as a whole. All the levels are calibrated with each other, because it's not about quantity, but about quality first. Once quality reaches a calibrated level, you can scale by quantity, which decreases the speed of trust and increases the scale of impact. At the Ray Lab, I view your signal not as a collection of aesthetic choices, but as a biological and acoustic frequency that needs to be calibrated. For this, I utilize the Radiance Framework, a rigorous 3-phase scientific alignment designed to move you from visual and vocal homelessness to visual and vocal sovereignty. By anchoring your signal in the physics of light and the mechanics of sound, I eliminate the friction between your internal power and your external projection. I'm not here to change who you are. I'm here to architect the clinical structure that finally allows your true authority to resonate without interference. This is the transition from high-stakes effort to unassailable influence. Before I diagnose your signal leaks, you must understand the architecture of a complete image signal. Phase 1 is the spectral calibration and your chromatic blueprint. I am calibrating your wardrobe, hair, makeup, and jewelry colors based on the human color harmony code, using my proprietary ray color analysis and ray color library of over 4,000 biometric color samples. Phase 1 is the foundation of your vitality. My understanding of color didn't begin in a design studio. It began in an astrophysical mountain village in Asia. As the daughter of a doctor in solar physics, I spent my childhood and teens translating research on the laws of light and later conducting independent scientific studies and research in physics, biology, and medicine. I don't perceive style. I calculate how light interacts with human biology at a spectral level. Phase 2 is the structural calibration. I am building a stabilized, seasonal wardrobe structure that houses that vitality based on your body and style type. This is the foundation of your presence. Using my background in fashion and digital design, as well as fine arts, I treat the silhouette as a structural asset. I'm not selecting outfits. I'm architecting a stabilized wardrobe system, an external blueprint designed to hold its authority in every high-stakes environment. With my academic foundation in linguistics and ethnology, I treat your wardrobe as a non-verbal narrative of interdependent parameters. I calibrate the parameters of your attire to ensure they translate accurately across global markets, eliminating the cultural noise that often undermines high-stakes negotiations. Phase 3 is the vocal calibration, tuning your acoustic frequency, your vocal sound, and kinetic behavior to match your visual blueprint. This is the foundation of your authority. This isn't a Western-centric theory. Through my academic background in linguistics and ethnology, and years of mastering the mechanics of sound as a musicologist and voice trainer and vocal coach, I decoded the actual physics of human vocal signal. This is why the Ray Lab works across global markets, because the physics of radiance is universal. When all three phases are calibrated, you reach the scientific and measurable parameter that I call radiance, which is the absence of signal leakage that fuels your impact. Let's have a closer look at why calibration matters and the result of a calibrated signal in each phase. Why does vitality matter for you? Which you acquire in phase 1 and which makes up 35% of your total signal. Vitality is certainly influenced by your diet, your fitness, sleep quality, your habits and more, but that doesn't matter if your spectral image is not calibrated but fragmented. You can follow the most rigorous diet and fitness plan and have the best sleep quality and still look washed out and exhausted. Because vitality can only be projected at the spectral level when your wardrobe, hair, makeup and jewelry colors support the vitality that you are building every day. When your colors are calibrated to your biometric type, light reflects off your skin with maximum efficiency. This eliminates visual static and replaces it with a biological glow. You look vital and home in your own body, even without makeup and during more demanding phases of your work. This is the first level of trust for your audience, employees, investors, and clients. According to the Princeton research, first impressions are formed in 33 to 100 milliseconds. Your audience's brain performs a biometric audit before you speak. If your wardrobe, makeup, hair, and jewelry colors create a shadow pool or dissonance on your face, the audience perceives biological aging or sickness. In global markets, aging is often subconsciously conflated with declining age. In neuro-aesthetics, the processing fluency theory suggests that the easier it is for the brain to process an image, the more it trusts that image. Most leaders try to project power through loud colors. If their skin looks gray or invisible due to uncalibrated colors, which result in spectral interference, the observer's amygdala flags illness or instability. I position phase 1, the spectral calibration, not as a styling session, but as a signal optimization. You are removing the evolutionary red flag of fatigue. Why vitality is a global currency? A leader who exhibits biological glow signals to an investor or the audience that they have cognitive surplus. When a leader looks exhausted due to visual noise, the brain of the observer assumes the leader is in survival mode. You cannot lead a legacy if your biology looks like it's barely maintaining its own systems. Vitality is the visual proof of reserve capacity. Now, why does presence matter? Which you acquire in phase 2. It makes up 25% of your signal. This is the transition from a single color that may make you look vital to a cohesive system that is held by structure and shape to build authentic presence. Without shape and structure, you are remembered as a shadow. When your attire is calibrated, you no longer leak energy through inconsistent signals. You command the space before you speak. You occupy a unified field that the brain of the observer recognizes as high status, which secures the second level of trust. I do not view presence as a personality trait. I view it as signal stability. Most leaders suffer from visual static. Their image is a collection of fragmented decisions. Presence is what happens when those fragments are replaced by a unified field. It is the moment your external structure becomes as disciplined as your internal strategy. Why does it matter at the board table or on the global stage? Because of processing fluency. When your wardrobe architecture is stabilized, meaning your silhouettes, shapes, dimension, and textures are in total alignment with your spectral type, the observer's brain requires zero caloric energy to figure you out. When you eliminate visual noise, you grant your audience cognitive ease because they don't have to work to process your image. Their nervous system registers you as safe, competent, and authoritative. They start listening to your voice. You aren't just standing in the room. You are dominating the sensory field. For the sovereign leader, presence is an executive tool for energy preservation. Decision fatigue is the silent killer of high-stakes performance. If you are spending mental energy on what to wear and how you are perceived, you are leaking capital. Presence, architected through a stabilized system, removes the mental load. It allows you to enter a room with 100% of your cognitive bandwidth available for the mission. You are not managing your wardrobe. Your wardrobe is managing your authority. Most people use fashion to get attention. The sovereign leader uses presence to command space. When you have a static presence, you're seen, but the signal is confusing. The audience is distracted by clashing makeup style, a dragging silhouette, or an uncalibrated hairstyle. When you have a sovereign presence, the signal is so cohesive that it becomes unassailable. Presence is the visual proof that you are in control of your territory, starting with the territory of your own body. If your phase 2, the presence, is broken, your authority is a lie. You can put on a $10,000 suit, but if the structure, shape, texture, and fabric are noisy against your skin, the suit is wearing you. You look like an inhabitant in someone else's home. Why does authority matter? Which you acquire in phase 3. It makes up 35% of your total signal. Presence in phase 2 bridges into authority in phase 3 through vocal calibration. If your acoustic frequency, your vocal sound, is in total alignment, the observer's nervous system relaxes. You bypass the judgment phase of the audience and move straight into the resonance phase. They trust your authority because your signal is unassailable. I define authority as the total elimination of signal leakage. Most leaders speak with words of power, but their acoustic frequency is in direct conflict with who they are and their mission. This creates cognitive dissonance in the listener. Authority is the state of zero resistance, where what they see, what they hear, and what you say are in such perfect alignment that the audience's brain has no choice but to accept your directive as truth. Global leadership is oftentimes a game of high-stakes pattern recognition. When you walk on a stage or enter a negotiation, the observer's brain subconsciously performs a super-speed visual audit. If your visual radiance is fragmented, if your hair color is noisy, or your vocal resonance is low, the observer detects a perception delta. Their subconscious thinks, if this leader has not mastered their own signal, how can they master my investment or solve my problem? For a global leader, authority is your primary translator. Words in verbal communication only account for 5% of your total signal. The other 95% is your visual and acoustic architecture. Thus, phase 1 and 2 build the visual trust frame. And phase 3, your acoustic calibration, ensures your voice carries the weight of your mission and message, and the precision of your expertise and the future legacy. When your signal is calibrated, your authority becomes universal. It resonates in a boardroom in Singapore exactly as it does in a stadium in London. You are no longer translating your value. You are projecting it. Why must you architect authority? Because the cost of signal static is legacy dilution. If your signal is weak on any level, you have to work twice as hard to persuade, twice as hard to lead, and twice as hard to be remembered. Authority is the force multiplier for your genius. It ensures that when you leave the room, your frequency remains. It transforms a moment into a movement. I don't calibrate your voice and looks so you look and sound better. I do it so your mission survives the noise of the 21st century. Only when the observer trusts your authority on all levels can your message achieve impact. This is the stage of legacy, because you have removed the mental load of image management for yourself and the observer and the visual noise of fragmentation. Your genius is delivered at 100% clarity. The absence of noise is clarity. Clarity with meaning is impact. If the listener can spend 100% of their energy on your message, you achieve 100% of impact. The result? Your words stick, your vision scales. You leave a true legacy because your sovereignty was architected from the skin upward. And here's where the chain usually breaks. You cannot architect phase 3, your vocal authority, on a fragmented phase 1, spectral authority. If your color is noisy, your voice will never fully resonate. This is why I begin with the physics of light, and I eliminate the need of hiring separate consultants for color, wardrobe, and voice. At the Ray Lab, you secure integrated scientific alignment within a single unified architecture. You also cannot fake authority with a loud voice or a bold and expensive suit. True authority is a byproduct of calibration and pure radiance. It is the look and sound of a leader who is finally at home in their own skin, occupying their own sovereignty. I don't give you authority. I remove the interference that is preventing the world from seeing the authority you already possess. Most leaders attempt to create impact while their spectral signal is fragmented. They try to speak with authority while their wardrobe, makeup, hair, and jewelry colors are creating spectral interference. When it takes too long for the audience to decode your signal and too much energy to ignore the dissonance, they simply turn off their attention and move on. And for women, it is 3 times as hard to generate impact because they have more visual areas to cover than men, such as hair color and makeup, where dissonance and fragmentation takes place. On this channel, I focus on the 4 stages of chromatic fragmentation in phase 1, your colors. Because if phase 1 is broken, the rest of your leadership is a game of compensating for static and working extra hard to get attention, to build trust, and expand your legacy. If you're realizing that your current signal is a mosaic of fragmented decisions rather than a calibrated architecture, it is time to transition from an observer to a participant. The path to visual sovereignty is not a shopping trip. It is a clinical alignment. It begins with phase 1, the spectral calibration, the foundational calibration of your chromatic blueprint, which takes 30 days. Because of the biometric precision required in the lab, I only accept a very limited number of calibrations each month. My process is reserved for founders and leaders who view their presence as a critical asset and are ready to eliminate the visual static that hinders their global legacy. When you stop managing noise and you start architecting your radiance, your impact triples.